Hello, my name is Thomas Lester, and I'm the project manager for the Bowie, Mitchellville, and Vicinity Master Plan, a project of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. Welcome to our online presentation. Over the past several months, our project team here at the Community Planning Division of the Prince George's County Planning Department, along with the consultant team, have gathered data, met with community members, and held focus groups with key agencies and organizations on various planning topics. This has culminated in the publication of an existing conditions report that covers the 8 planning elements that are outlined in the following presentation as well as the report. If you were not already aware, the report is now available on our project website for your review. You may comment directly on the document by using the online tool called Conveo. Please see the accompanying video regarding how to interact with the document and leave comments using this tool. In the next 3 weeks, we will gather and review your feedback on the existing conditions report content and hold a virtual open house to further discuss on September 16, 2020 from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The virtual open house will include a short presentation of the project and existing conditions report, but more importantly, it will provide the opportunity for you, the community, and interested parties to form smaller breakout groups to have an in-depth discussion on what has been identified as the most important opportunities and challenges of the area. To carry out this upcoming outreach event, and to complete this detailed look at the existing conditions of the master plan area, the project team has been supported by the consultant team comprised of planning professionals from WXY, Tool Design Group, and HR&A. I will now hand it over to Kashan from WXY to introduce the consultant team and guide us through an overview presentation of the existing conditions report. Please stay tuned to hear more about upcoming events for the Bowie, Mitchellville, and Vicinity Master Plan. Kashan?
Thank you, Thomas. It is a Monday morning here, so I'm going to wish our viewers a very good morning, and I hope you all are keeping good health in these very unique times that we are living in. As Thomas mentioned, this pre-recorded session is meant to provide an overview of the existing conditions report and some of the findings within it, and in a way serve as a preface to the virtual open house scheduled in September, where MNC PPC and the consultant team will engage with the community members. My name is Kushan Dave. I'm a director of planning at WXY Studio and also a project manager for Bowie, Mitchellville, and Vicinity Master Plan process. With me on the call today are my colleagues Abby Zan and Raphael Lodd from WXY. I'm also joined by Elizabeth Packer from HR&A Advisors and Andy Clark from Tool Design Group. Before we dive in, we want to make sure that each one of us introduces ourselves. And I would request our participants to share their name, their role, organization, and in the spirit of our remote working culture, tell us one thing that you can't live without in your home office. And remember, there are no wrong answers here. I can kick us off. Again, my name is Kushan Dave. I'm a director of planning at WXY Studio. And I would say perhaps my coffee maker is one thing that I can't live without. I mean, that's the only way I can get through the day. With that, I'll pass it on to Abby.
Hi, I'm Abby Zan. I'm a planner at WXY. And one thing I can't live without in my at-home office are all of my office plants that keep me company while I sit at my desk.
Hi, I'm Raphael Lodd. I'm a planner at WXY, and I can't live without my external monitor.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Packer. I'm a director at HR&A Advisors. We've been working with WXY on some of the housing and commercial market elements of this plan. And I would say, to echo others, my coffee maker and my external monitor are certainly making the work from home experience more bearable.
And I'm Andy Clark. I'm Director of Strategy with Tool Design, and we've been looking at the transportation elements. And I'll go with a cat that is an essential addition, recent addition to our household. But I am just praying that he doesn't appear in the background at some point during, or even the foreground during this meeting.
Thanks, Andy, and thanks, everyone. That actually would be delightful if your cat appears on the video. So this is great. Thank you guys for sharing this bit of your remote work life. We have a lot of material to go through today, so let's get started. Next slide. We will start by giving you a quick overview of the project, objectives, and approach. Next, we will briefly look at an outline of our report that will help you navigate the different sections as you read through it on your screens. This will be followed by insights by section, where we will share some major takeaways for each planning elements. Following that, we will take a step back and discuss some big picture ideas that emerge from our analysis under the key challenges and opportunities section. We will end by talking about potential next steps and what to expect in the upcoming phase of the project. Next. Now we'll talk a little bit about sort of the overview of the project. In terms of team profile, as I mentioned, we are working closely with HRNA Advisors and Tool Design Group. This chart outlines who is collaborating on this effort and what their focuses are. WXY is leading the urban design and infrastructure component. HRNA Advisors will be leading the economic and market analysis component, and Tool Design Group will be leading the transportation and mobility analysis component. On the call today, we will each be speaking to these areas. Next. Our role is to objectively and critically look at Bowie, Michelville, and vicinity area and understand where are we today. We are also aware that there has been a fair amount of data collection and research already done at the county level, and we want to make sure that these macro level strategies are contextualized to the study area and folded into our analysis to an extent possible. As such, our approach is to analyze existing conditions in Bowie and Michelville and vicinity area and understand what today's conditions are like. This involves looking at relevant data sets and conducting a set of analysis within our study area. In the process, we also want to engage and learn from stakeholders and community leaders and get their feedback in a way that guides our analysis and approach. And lastly, we want to draw upon the expertise of our team in urban planning and design, transportation and mobility, and market analysis, and create a playbook of strategies that offers long and short-term guidance to MNCPPC as they start to write the actual master plan document. Next. So where are we in the process now? The process overall consists of two phases. In the first phase, we developed the existing conditions report that is now available for public access online on MNCPPC's website. As part of phase one, MNCPPC held a virtual public kickoff meeting in the summer of 2020. This meeting was meant to introduce the public to the master plan process and offer some highlights from the existing conditions analysis. Now we are moving from phase one into phase two. And in phase two, we will take everything what we learned from the existing conditions analysis and develop a playbook of strategies. And that includes recommendations for urban design schemes that can help address the challenges and opportunities within the master plan area. As I mentioned, this pre-recorded session and the upcoming open house scheduled in September 2020 is meant to bridge these two phases and allow for more feedback time from the community. The final public meeting will be held in the fall of 2020 after the final report is published. This meeting will be an opportunity for the public to learn about and respond to the strategies and recommendations in the report. Next. Now we will briefly look at the report outline that can help orient the readers on what to expect. Next. Our report objectives are fairly straightforward. We want to provide a snapshot of current conditions of the master plan area. We want to outline specific challenges and opportunities that we see. And we really want to put plans and data sets in context. As I mentioned, a lot of study has been done at the county level, and we really want to contextualize that. And at the end, we want to offer guiding analysis and context for the playbook of strategies to be developed in the next phase. Next. While we are going to summarize highlights from the existing conditions report in today's meeting, We hope you'll open it up on your own time and explore the report for yourself. When you do, you'll see that the report is divided into 3 sections: introduction and context, existing conditions analysis, and appendix. The introduction and context section lays out the objectives of the report and introduces the reader to the planning elements, including an explanation of how these elements relate to the Plan 2035 plan elements. This section also introduces focus areas and key corridors, which are locations that are identified by MNCPBC in the master plan area that present unique challenges and opportunities for future planning. Section 2, the existing conditions. You will find insights, graphs, and maps, some of which will be shown at the presentation today, and you'll get a chance to dive deeper into these analyses as you open up the existing conditions report. And lastly, the report appendix includes additional resources and data for the reader's reference, including a glossary to define some of the key terms used in the report and additional maps and tables. Next. Now, before we dive into the presentation, it's important to mention that our report structure closely resembles the planning elements laid out under Plan 2035. These elements are meant to guide planning and development within the county in both the short and the long term. The planning elements in our existing conditions report line up with 7 of the 8 themes in Plan 2035 as seen on this slide. All right, so now let's dive into each of these elements one by one and go through the different kind of analysis we've conducted and some of the major insights from each. Raphael Lord from WXY will get us started with the first set of insights, followed by Elizabeth from HRNA and Andy from Tool, and then Abby from WXY. And with that, Raph, over to you.
Thank you, Kushan. We began by conducting an analysis of the demographics and economic backgrounds of Bowie residents, the population density of the master plan area, and of jobs available in the area. Next. Households in the Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity master plan area are more likely to own the homes they live in, be families, and have high household incomes compared to residents of the county overall. So looking at the stats on the right, we see that they're slightly more likely to be family households, 73% versus 66%. Median household incomes are significantly higher at about $121,000 annually compared to $82,000 annually in Prince George's County. And the master plan area has comparatively few renters compared to the county overall, about 13% of households being renters compared to 35% in Prince George's County. Next. The population of the master plan area is aging, with persons 55 and older driving population growth, as shown in the chart in the right. Interestingly, millennials aged 25 to 34 also represent a growing age group in the master plan area as well as the county. While these patterns are distinct and important, they are generally smaller in percentage terms than the shifts we are seeing across the county. And this reflects the stability of households in the master plan area, where the population is only expected to increase modestly in the 5 years to come, from 86,000 residents to 90,000 residents. Next. 68% of residents living in the master plan area live in the city of Bowie, which is also the densest community in the master plan area. Most of its residents live at a gross density of about 5 to 10 persons per acre, which is considered a low density urban scale or high density suburban scale. Elsewhere in the master plan area, most residents live on large suburban lots, usually in areas with population density less than 5 persons per acre, which is considered very suburban or even rural in some areas. Recent population growth has been concentrated in the Church Road corridor, where development has been most intense in recent years. This development, however, has been fairly low density, and we do not expect the population density of these areas to resemble that of surrounding communities such as those in the city of Bowie. Next. In the final piece of our demographic and economic profile, we examined the change in jobs between 2015 and 2019 by industry. In areas such as employment, where we expect statistical volatility during economic slowdowns, it's important to remember that these numbers have likely changed considerably. Overall, we find that healthcare is the largest sector in the study area, representing about 14% of all jobs in the master plan area. Just as healthcare is the largest job sector in the master plan area, it saw the largest growth in the number of jobs in the last 4 years, nearly 1,000. The retail sector in the master plan area has seen the greatest number of jobs lost, shrinking by about 200. Next. In our next section, we examined land use, zoning, and urban form. As one of the primary components of our analysis thus far, this analysis included many avenues of inquiry. Next. Land in the Bowie-Mitchellville master plan area is principally used for low-density residential housing, most of it single-family detached housing, and parks and open space. Compared to the county overall, the master plan area has much less mixed-use developments and multifamily buildings, reflecting the low-density suburban character of the master plan area. Next. Examining the population density map and land use maps until now, you've noticed that the area east of 301 is particularly low density compared to the rest of the master plan area. This area is zoned for very low density uses, principally for rural housing and agricultural uses. And now this area has been preserved under Prince George's County's urban growth boundary, created as part of the Plan 2035 process. The boundary is meant to provide an outer limit on the urban growth of the county, encouraging infill development within existing communities in the county rather than greenfield development. Finally, this policy helps preserve rural and agricultural lands in the county and master plan area, which are part of the historical character of the area. Next. The master plan has seen 2 building booms. The first came in the post-war period, notably in the 60s and 70s, with the development of the Levittown comprising most of the city of Bowie today. A second, more sustained boom came in the mid-80s, lasting until the Great Recession in 2008. In the course of these 2 booms, the large majority of land in the master plan area has been built out. Recent development, which picked up in about 2014, has filled in some of the remaining large vacant parcels, mostly with very low density housing as shown in the image on the bottom right of this slide. Next. This slide examines a metric you may not be familiar with. It's called the link node ratio, and it examines the number of road segments divided by the number of intersections. This indicator is important because it tells us which areas are more urban in character and which are more rural in character, allowing us to better determine where walking and cycling infrastructure may be attractive versus the areas where it is unlikely to be useful to residents. We find that the street network in the city of Bowie, in particular, has a high link node ratio, greater than 1.8 in many areas. This is considered fairly high, near that of a grid system, which has a link node ratio of 2 in the abstract. Next. Finally, to better understand possible future development in the master plan area and possible opportunity sites for development, we examined land ownership patterns. About 80% of all land in the master plan area is privately owned, with the large majority of this land already developed. The remaining 20% of lands in the master plan area are mostly owned by Prince George's County in the state of Maryland. Areas owned by the county are mostly used for parks and open space, whereas the state owns a number of large undeveloped parcels. To you, Kishan.
Great. Thank you, Raf. And with that, next we have Elizabeth from HRNA, who will tell us about housing in neighborhoods and commercial market profile. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Great, thank you, Kushan. So as part of our evaluation of the housing in neighborhoods that make up the Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity area, we first conducted an analysis of existing housing stock as well as recent development trends, which included evaluating the known development pipeline for new multifamily townhome and single family construction. As part of our analysis of housing in neighborhoods, we also looked at the existing affordable housing stock in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity, including the number of households who are housing cost burdened, which is defined as those who pay more than 30% of their income on housing. So all of this evaluation and analysis of the housing market and recent development trends helped inform identification of opportunities for future residential development that would be well suited to the existing and future housing needs of residents, as well as to the market context. So we'll talk about that in the key opportunities and challenges section. Next. So in terms of existing housing stock, as we've heard about in both demographics and land use, Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity is a predominantly residential area, and most of its neighborhoods are low density single family homes on large lots. So on the top chart on the right, you can see that the vast majority of housing stock are indeed single family detached homes. So there are far fewer multifamily units in the master plan area than compared to the county overall. In terms of the age of housing stock, 3/4 of housing units in the area were built over 20 years ago, highlighting the lack of recent residential development activity. So it's not a very active market in terms of new construction. However, there are two major master plan development projects for the area, Melford Town Center and South Lake. And these projects will significantly increase the housing stock available in the master plan area, particularly in terms of the number of multifamily units. So the second chart, the residential development pipeline, shows the anticipated number of units to be delivered. And most of these are from the Melford Town Center and South Lake projects. So the performance of these projects and the market's ability to absorb this significant number of new apartments will help to demonstrate if there is demand for multifamily in the master plan area. And it will also, given, as we talked about in the demographic section, given that there's not projected to be major population growth in the area, both the Melford and South Lake projects will need to attract residents from outside of the master plan area, given that the number of housing units included in these two master plan development projects is far greater than the projected future household growth in Bowie and Mitchellville and vicinity. Next. As we discussed, these two major master plan development projects, in addition to increasing the area's housing stock, will also be adding significant density, and that density will be helpful and key to support future commercial development. So adding new retail or office to start to build mixed use nodes. And so the map on the right shows the location of the Melford and South Lake projects and shows the types of housing that will be included in each of them. So we can see that multifamily is a key component of both of these projects. Next. So now we'll discuss the commercial profile, the commercial market profile, and our evaluation of existing conditions. So we conducted an analysis of the office, industrial, and retail markets in the master plan area. This included an evaluation of existing stock as well as indicators of market performance. So looking at trends in rent, vacancy, and absorption. And similarly to the residential market analysis and evaluation of housing stock, this evaluation of the commercial market helped to inform identification of opportunities for future mixed-use development in the area. Next. So beginning with the retail market, we can see in the map to the right that the vast majority of retail in the master plan area is concentrated around Bowie Town Center. And almost all of the retail in the area is single-story strip malls with large surface parking lots. So looking at the map, the size of the circle indicates the total square footage of existing retail. So we can see that large cluster of different strip malls around Bowie Town Center. And there is an existing retail spending gap in the master plan area, which means that residents must travel outside of the area to fulfill some of their shopping needs. However, these residents are served by retail centers that exist nearby, but outside of the master plan area, such as Waugh Chapel and the Westfield Annapolis Mall. So master plan residents are captured within the catchment areas of retailers who are located in those nearby centers. So the addition of residential density will be key to attracting new retail development within the master plan area. And we'll talk about this later in the opportunity section, but there are several aging retail centers within the master plan area that represent opportunities for potential redevelopment to accommodate additional density. Next. So in looking at the office and industrial markets in the master plan area, as you can see in the map on the right, existing office is concentrated around Bowie Town Center, which is the main commercial location in the master plan area, while industrial is concentrated near the Collington Trade Zone. In terms of market performance, the area has a weak Class A office mark. There's a high vacancy rate, a lack of recent development activity, and low rents that would not justify the construction of new office space given construction costs in this region. But in terms of its industrial market, the master plan area does have several locational advantages, including its easy access to both DC and Baltimore, making it an attractive location for companies looking for last mile warehouse space and looking to establish a footprint in the Mid-Atlantic region. However, in thinking about what makes a great mixed-use area, warehouse space is typically not thought of as an attractive use when trying to build a vibrant area that promotes walkability and builds a work, live, play environment. Next. So with that, I'll hand it back to Kushan.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth, for those useful insights. And now Andy Clark from Tool Design Group will take us through the transportation and mobility section. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Kushan. Our team conducted an analysis of the broad transportation context in the Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity. We assessed major transportation infrastructure and options in the area and reviewed traffic safety and congestion issues. Although we were limited to existing available sources of information, meaning that we were not able to undertake any new crash, intersection, or level of service type assessments, we were able to develop a pretty clear picture of transportation and mobility in the master plan area. Next. The Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity has an extensive roadway network and sufficient free parking to make driving, usually alone, the easy default for almost all trips, including work trips that are primarily outside the area. Few segments of the roadway network experience serious congestion. The MARC station, Bowie Park and Ride Center, and the WV&A Trail are all examples of notable regional transportation facilities, although transit ridership and active transportation are relatively low compared to the region as a whole. Next. Traffic safety can be a powerful influence on people's choice of travel mode, and there's really a three-part story to tell in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity. First, as you might expect, there are quite a lot of crashes on the main road network, but fortunately, they are largely property damage only crashes. Second, by focusing on just the fatal and serious injury crashes, you can see from this map that a small percentage of the roadway network experiences a high percentage of the worst crashes, notably Maryland 197 and Maryland 450. These also happen to be transit corridors. They're the important retail and service corridors and destinations, and they often serve schools. Third, there are also systemic issues in the design of area roadways that result in a highly dispersed pattern of fatal and serious injury crashes, particularly involving pedestrians and cyclists, that can happen anywhere that similar conditions exist. For example, the 2018 Church Road pedestrian fatality, which was an isolated crash but happened in a somewhat predictable location. The contributing causes of crashes are typically speed, lack of infrastructure for people on foot or bike, such as safe crosswalks, lighting, and a protected place to ride. Next. What we found notable was that while sidewalks, trails, bus routes, and train service exist and on paper often offer options other than driving, in reality, those options are unsafe, they feel uncomfortable, they're not terribly convenient, and they're simply not competitive with driving, often despite proximity. For example, neighborhoods immediately adjacent to major retail destinations such as the Bowie Marketplace or Collington Plaza, often just a few hundred feet as the crow flies, people really have no practical choice but to drive to those destinations. Next. As an example, we took a closer look at the walk sheds of primary bus routes in Bowie-Mitchellville. If you look at the map on the left, the winding bus routes mean that a lot of people actually live within a 10-minute walk of the routes, until you take into account missing sidewalks and crosswalks, major highways between the home and the bus stop, creeks, and other barriers that are difficult to overcome. As a result, there are really only 3 or 4 places shown on the map on the right with consistently high ridership numbers. The park and ride stations at the Tan Center and Maryland 450, the Bowie Mark Campus Center station, and at Maryland 214, Central Avenue and Hall Road. Kushan, back to you.
Great, thank you, Andy. And it's so important to understand those barriers as we start to understand transportation in this context. And with that, now I'll pass it on to Abby Zan from WXY Studio, who will take us through community heritage, culture and design, healthy communities, and public facilities. Abby, over to you.
Thanks, Kushan. In this part of the analysis, we were interested in understanding the cultural and historic sites that shape the character of Bowie-Mitchellville and vicinity, and understand the considerations that the master plan area should take into account to preserve this history and to promote a strong local character. And we also conducted an analysis about the potential for an arts and entertainment district in the master plan area. The master plan area has a rich history. It features 48 historic sites and resources, 10 of which are recognized as part of the National Historic Register of Historic Places. The historic town of Bowie has its origins as a railroad settlement in the 1870s. And so the original center of Bowie, Old Town Bowie, features a concentration of historic sites centered around the Railroad Museum and Visitors Center. African American communities have played an important role in the history of the area, and many historic African American properties and communities are located around Old Town Bowie. These are illustrated in orange on the map at right. The master plan area also boasts many sites from the mid-century modern movement in architecture, which are marked on the map in light blue squares. The area's mid-century modern movement was anchored by the Levitt and Sons suburban community, which was built starting around 1957. One of the greatest opportunities to promote local heritage today is through the Anacostia Trails Heritage Area, covering over 9,500 acres within the master plan area. The Anacostia Trails Heritage Area presents an opportunity for heritage and tourism grants through the state of Maryland, and this area is seen in yellow on the map. To analyze the potential for an arts and entertainment district, we reviewed A&E districts across the state of Maryland, as well as some of the key criteria to apply for a designation. We looked at 2 focus areas, Old Town Bowie and Bowie Local Town Center, and considered 3 of the core criteria for an A&E district designation: an existing artist population, the potential for artist housing, and existing or potential cultural anchors. Both of these sites have potential to pursue an A&E district designation eventually, but it will require a concerted planning effort. In general, Bowie-Mitchellville and vicinity has the potential to grow its arts, culture, and entertainment sector through cultural programming at existing anchors like the Bowie Railroad Museum, and through creative partnerships with institutions like Bowie State University. Next, in the Healthy Communities section, we considered a variety of factors that contribute to healthy communities in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity. This includes access to green space, food systems, senior care and services, and sustainability and the environment. The master plan area enjoys a plentiful amount of green space, including public parks, trails, and recreational facilities. Parks are easily accessible by car, but are less accessible by foot or by bike, which is consistent with the master plan area's overarching challenges with transportation and mobility, as Andy was just discussing. 86% of the master plan area falls within a 10-minute drive of a park, while only 22% of land area falls within a 10-minute walk. There are 64 public parks in the master plan area, the majority of which feature active recreation facilities or trails. And with 42 acres of parkland for every 1,000 residents, the master plan area exceeds Prince George's County's level of service standard of 35 acres per 1,000 people. In terms of access to fresh food, most of the master plan area sees easy access to a supermarket by car, but very few residents can access a supermarket on foot, bike, or via public transit. The map on the right side of your screen shows the areas that fall within a 10-minute walk of a supermarket, highlighted in light green. The majority of areas within walking distance of a supermarket are in or around the Bowie local town center. There are 2 areas in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity identified as low supermarket access areas, highlighted in light red on the map. Residents in low supermarket access areas have to travel further to their nearest supermarket as compared to better served areas with a similar population density and car ownership rate. This includes an area in the US 301 corridor near the future South Lake development, as well as a large portion of the north end of the master plan area, including Old Town Bowie and the Bowie Mark Campus Center. These underserved areas present the potential for new or expanded food retail options to meet market demands and address inequalities in local food access. One of the master plan area's greatest assets in terms of access to food is its local agriculture. Approximately 16% of land area in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity is used for agriculture. This includes land both within and outside of the rural and agricultural reserve, seen in green on the map at right. The Harp, Mouth, and rural legacy areas seen on the map in pink, orange, and brown are areas where land is preserved in perpetuity for agricultural uses. Today, there are also several places where residents of Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity can buy farm fresh food, including 2 farmers markets, 5 farms that sell locally through farm stands or CSAs, and 2 public community gardens at Penn Hill Center and South Bowie Community Center. There's an opportunity to expand these fresh food offerings to make healthy food available to more residents. A recent County Council bill expanded the zoning for urban agriculture to include most of the master plan area. Finally, our analysis looked at a wide range of public facilities. We examined public school capacity and growth, and we looked at residents' access to libraries, community centers, hospitals, police beats, and fire and emergency medical services. Consistent with most parts of Prince George's County, the number of school-aged children in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity has decreased during the past decade. Looking at the map of the county on the right, orange circles indicate parts of the county that saw a decrease in school-aged children from 2010 to 2018, and pink circles indicate where this population has grown. To understand how these population trends translate to Prince George's County Public Schools enrollment, we look at a measure called utilization. This is the number of students enrolled at a school as a percentage of the school's total capacity. The utilization rates of schools in the master plan area has increased overall since 2010. However, most schools today are well or underutilized, meaning they're operating at or below their capacity. Bowie High School is one of only 3 high schools in the county within the target utilization range of 80 to 95% that is prescribed by the Prince George's County Public Schools. The maps on this slide show public schools in the master plan area according to their utilization rate. The green labels point to schools that fall within the county's target utilization range. Orange schools are underutilized, and schools with pink labels are overutilized. Schools are more likely to be underutilized than overutilized in the master plan area, and only one school is highly overutilized, or over 120%, and that is Whitehall Elementary. So aside from Whitehall Elementary, we do not expect the master plan area to have challenges accommodating school-aged children in its public school facilities in the coming years. Next, we looked at access to a range of public facilities, including libraries, parks, community centers, hospitals, and emergency services. One of our major findings is that public facilities are concentrated in older existing communities, in particular within the city of Bowie. This may pose a challenge for new development, which is largely taking place outside of these communities. Access to public facilities is also a challenge for low-density residential areas along the Church Road corridor or east of US 301. The travel shed maps on this slide show public facilities access in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinities. Access to community centers by bike and by car is particularly strong north of US 50 and along the US 301 corridor, as shown in the first map on the left. While there are no full-service hospitals within the master plan area, the great majority of Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity falls within a 21-minute drive of a hospital, which is a national standard for suburban communities. A large portion of the master plan area, particularly along and north of US 50, also falls within a 12-minute drive of a hospital, which is the nationwide average for suburban communities. In terms of fire station access, Prince George's County standards aim for residential areas to fall within a 7-minute drive of the nearest fire station, and non-residential areas to fall within a 5-minute drive. As seen in the map at right, the City of Bowie sees strong access to fire stations, as does Old Town Bowie. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Prashad.
Great, thank you, Abby. And just a small note to our listeners and viewers, we understand that this is a fairly dense analysis in a way, and we are hoping to provide you with an overview. And we sincerely hope that you'll pick up the report and dig deeper into what you saw and what you heard today. And with that, our last and final section, we'll look at some high-level challenges and opportunities that we see in the study area. While in this report, we address challenges and opportunities for each planning element, some of which you kind of heard a while ago, we've put a very few brief slides by the 3 thematic topics to give you an idea of what to expect in the document. These categories include, next slide, built environment, connectivity, and market. And Raphael from WXY will kick us off here, followed by Andy and Elizabeth. Raph, over to you.
Thank you, Krishan. Next. The Bowie-Mitchellville area is mostly suburban with low population densities across the master plan area, though in particular in newly developed areas outside of the city of Bowie, especially in the Church Road corridor. This use of land in the master plan area poses certain challenges. Areas with low population densities are generally not able to support high quality retail and dining as well as other businesses, meaning residents need to travel further to find attractive services and jobs. As a result, this pattern of low density development is autocentric, which can pose additional challenges to the environment. Finally, this style of development, by virtue of its low density, precludes future development that may be higher density without disrupting existing communities. Next. The Bowie-Mitchellville and vicinity master plan area presents notable opportunity sites for mixed-use centers. These developments create more connection between where residents live, where they work, and where they play, creating highly livable environments for residents and providing opportunities and jobs for residents of the surrounding areas. For this reason, Plan 2035 encouraged the development of these centers throughout the county. Our analysis has identified the Bowie Local Town Center and Bowie Mart Campus Center as key opportunities for mixed-use centers. The following phase of our analysis examines possible urban design interventions in the Bowie Local Town Center. As our analysis has shown, there are few opportunities in the master plan area for this kind of development. As such, it is critical to engage residents of the master plan area, as well as business as well as the business community in order to ensure that development on these parcels is done right. Next. A critical challenge facing the master plan area is providing infrastructure to newly developed areas outside of the city of Bowie. As Abby showed in our public facilities section, these areas have farther travel times to have access to libraries, schools, and community centers than in older established communities. These areas are often far from existing fire stations, creating a potential safety hazard. With that, I would like to pass it to Andy from Tool Design to take us through the connectivity section.
Thank you, Raphael. The transportation system today reflects and supports the suburban car-dependent development pattern that Raphael has just described. This is inconsistent with the stated goals of previous sector plans and relevant county planning documents, and with the City of Bowie's own plans, which all speak to the importance of creating walkable, transit-accessible communities and having a more compact development pattern. Few of the traditional demand factors for active transportation exist in the Bowie-Mitchellville area. For example, there isn't much higher density residential neighborhoods. There's not much in the way of mixed use development. There are very few households without access to a motor vehicle and very few households experiencing poverty. Next. There is an opportunity to increase the frequency and directness of bus service to serve more local destinations, as well as longer commuting trips and trips to regional destinations. There's an opportunity to review the location of park and ride lots and bus stops to ensure that they're in the most accessible and practical locations for passengers. For example, so that the town center park and ride lot is at the largest trip generator, the shopping center, rather than somewhat on the periphery. And there's an opportunity to improve the safety and appeal of bus stops, park and ride lots, and the train station, for example, with the addition of shelters, sidewalks, and crosswalks at all bus stops to increase ridership. Next. Equally, there's an opportunity to eliminate the common barriers to active transportation by implementing priority projects in county and local trail plans that are already in place. There's an opportunity to ensure a complete network of streets and roadways with sidewalks, crosswalks at all the legs of the intersections, and protected bike lanes to enable access to retail, to schools, to recreation centers, and the other destinations that you've heard described earlier. There's an opportunity to enable people to get across major roads, rail lines, creeks, and even fences around retail centers to encourage people, to enable them to use active travel modes in transit by providing improved or priority access to those destinations. Next. Realizing these opportunities to increase connectivity not only moves the community closer to its vision, but also increases sustainability and community resilience by reducing dependence on cars, by lowering vehicle emissions, by improving stormwater management, by enhancing livability, eliminating serious traffic crashes, and ultimately creating a greater sense of community among residents. And now let me hand over to Elizabeth.
Thank you, Andy. So now we'll talk about some of the key opportunities and challenges from a market perspective, and you'll see that this really echoes and parallels what we've already heard around the built environment and connectivity. Next. So as we talked about, currently the master plan area doesn't have the residential density needed to attract new retail. So there's certainly an opportunity to build residential density to then attract new commercial development. So that also, by adding residential density, helps to move towards the vision for mixed use communities where residents are able to live and do their shopping in a walkable community. So a potential opportunity is to start thinking about incorporating mid-rise multifamily apartments on some of the surface lots that surround existing retail centers so that you begin to concentrate activity around existing commercial space. Next. In terms of employment growth and jobs in the master plan area, as we discussed, the bulk of job growth in the past decade has occurred in the healthcare sector, and almost a quarter of all businesses in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity are in this sector. So a lot of the growth has come from businesses related to outpatient care, home health care, and mental health and substance abuse facilities. So continued employment growth in this industry could lead to increased demand for medical office space in the area. So that represents a potential opportunity for future office space. Next. However, I think it's important to caveat that potential opportunity by recognizing that the low rents that exist in the area for office space, the complete lack of recent development activity, and the overall Class A market performance are all strong indicators that the office market in Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity is currently not strong enough to support speculative office development. So any opportunities around new office space should focus on first securing a tenant or institutional anchor to support project feasibility. So existing institutions like Bowie State could potentially be a partner to help realize a feasible office project in the future. Next. So in terms of, again, opportunities to start to deliver mixed use nodes of activity in the area, some of the existing aging shopping centers are prime opportunities for redevelopment. And you can read more about this in our report, but rather than do new greenfield development, there's an opportunity to add residential and other complementary uses to some of these existing aging centers to build density and start to create a mixed use community. Next. And finally, multifamily housing. Again, this area is predominantly single family housing, so adding multifamily housing is the prime opportunity to build density. As we talked about in the demographic section, future growth in the area is primarily going to be driven by older residents as well as millennials. So thinking about apartments that cater to the needs of these population cohorts is an opportunity to attract those populations away from single family homes and potentially deliver apartments that meet their desires. Next. So with that, I'll hand it over to Kushan.
Great. Well, thank you guys for sharing your insights. And I really hope that this session has given our viewers an overview of what to expect in the existing conditions report. Like I mentioned previously, we really hope that you'll pick up the existing conditions report and really dig deeper into the various analyses that were conducted as part of this process and really engage with MNCPBC and the consultant team at sort of the open house that is scheduled for September 2020. Next slide. Next, we are entering the second phase of the process. As mentioned earlier, there will be an open house in September 2020, where we will engage with both sort of community members and stakeholders and continue to learn throughout the process. And again, there will be another open house later in fall of 2020, where we will look at the final playbook of strategies, document, and engage with the community members around that. In phase 2, we will develop urban design schemes for 3 key sites in the master plan area and create a playbook of strategies that can inform future planning and design interventions. We will continue to learn from a range of stakeholders and incorporate that feedback into our analysis and our solutions. And lastly, we will come together again in fall to learn and engage around the final report that comes out of the other end of this process. And with that, our entire team would like to thank you for your time, and I'll turn it back to Thomas Lester. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kushan and team, for that detailed walkthrough of the Bowie, Mitchellville, and Vicinity Master Plan Existing Conditions Report. As mentioned earlier, you may review and comment directly on the document by using our online tool called Conveo. Please see the accompanying instructional video on how to leave comments using this tool. In the next 3 weeks, we will gather and review your feedback on the existing conditions report content and hold a virtual open house on September 16, 2020 from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. That will include small breakout groups to discuss and further explore these important topics. We will also hold a series of community chats regarding each of the master plan elements shown on the screen. These community chats will take a highly focused look at each of the plan elements. If there is a topic that particularly interests you, we encourage you to sign up and participate. Thank you for tuning in and staying engaged in this project. And please watch our next video on how you can leave comments on the existing conditions report.